Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
Welcome again to another great episode of Foxborough Central. I'm Bob Hickey, just as that guy who was talking at you on the intro says. Great to have you here. Grab a cup of coffee, sit on back. Let's talk a little bit, shall we, about the great things that make Foxborough what we are. Gem of Norfolk County becomes the Gem of Norfolk County because of great people, great things, great events, and because we live in a great country, America. And one of the things that makes America strong is our form of government, capitalism, but with regulation to keep us safe. Part of that safety falls on the shoulders of people like my guest today, Major Joe Rolanitis.
Robert.
I know I'm going to get that name wrong one of these times, but I got it right this time.
You're doing great. I'm proud of you.
Major, thank you so much, Joe, for coming out and spending a little bit of time with me as we talk about the Food and Drug Administration with the folks at Foxborough. Here in Foxborough, we are blessed, if you will, with having a very safe, at least we think it's safe, environment when it comes to our restaurants, our stores, the food we eat, the toys we play with. But my guest is going to talk about other things, events, issues, and the relationship between maybe the federal Food and Drug Administration, state and local level, and also what are the burning issues that face us today.
You are giving me so many great segues, Bob. It makes my job very easy.
Well, you know, the hope of this is that I've given you all this stuff, and now I just sit back, and I'm going to be like the other countless viewers at home. We're just going to sit back and listen. Take it away, Joe.
Well, you know, we're an agency that's confronting issues, and you know, this is the gem of the area. There's no doubt about it. It's nice down here. We've got some great restaurants, great fast food places.
I have a pretty good football team, too.
You know, very true, very true. So it's a wonderful lifestyle, and you know what? And I'm sure an educated viewership, and that makes everything a lot easier, and sort of gets the perceptives and the questions sort of going. Like to talk about obesity. I would.
Childhood obesity, adult obesity, obesity in general.
Well, let's cover them both if we have the time for that. Major concern, there's no doubt about it. Back in 10 or so years ago, the FDA was sort of wise enough to put together what we called an obesity working group. We looked at the simple fact that in the 20 or so years before that, the population in this country was just getting bigger. I don't mean taller, I mean sort of wider around the stomach and so forth and so on. Now, you know, I'm a government guy, Bob. I got stats and facts, which I'll toss around, but I'd like to put a human face on this. I really would. If you look at the fact that in the past 20 or so years, the number of people, both children and adults over the age of 20, who are either obese or overweight has grown dramatically. In fact, stats indicate that about one in 4 Americans are either obese or overweight.
1 in 4. 1
in 4. 9 million, almost 10 million American school children under the age of 16 are either overweight or obese. That's an interesting perspective because we have to live with this.
And they become adults. And you know, speaking to the point, we all are familiar with the tragic, I think it was last year, there was a need by the Coast Guard to increase the weight ratio per person because of, I think there was a particular ferry accident where a boat overturned because the regulations of how heavy a typical American person is was no longer applicable, and the boat was actually overweighted,
of course,
even though the number of people on the boat did not exceed the capacity of the boat.
That's an amazing perspective, really. That's true. We've got to update our perspective and our concept on who's overweight and who isn't. But we are getting heavier. I mean, it's so multifaceted, it's amazing. If you look at industry, the supersized mentality is still with us. I mean, although the adjectives have gone away, sometimes the bigger the better at restaurants that we go to fast food.
But we all want value. We work hard for our money, and we want most bang for our buck.
We do, or we want volume anyways, there's no doubt about that. So that's
what we perceive to be the biggest bang for our buck.
That's correct. So that's a big concept. You mentioned the fact that obese children become oftentimes obese adults. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at an epidemic outbreak of type 2 diabetes. We're looking at these, cardiovascular problems, certain types of bone density issues, certain types of cancer, pulmonary problems that are all associated to being overweight. And it's something that if a child is obese or overweight at 9 and does not have the proper guidance in his or her life to adjust his consumption levels, understanding things like, I brought some examples here, food labels, which are so important as far as carbohydrates go and calorie intakes and serving sizes and so forth, they're going to become overweight adults. All you have to do is sit in a parking lot, I'm sure you've done it, at a major big box retail store and see who waddles in to the store and see what they buy.
You know what, and then this is a local issue, of course, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but the state of Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, last year came out with new regulations regarding the size and the portion control of student lunches.
That's correct.
And my, not that I'm overly intelligent in any one thing, but reading the newspapers, there was a significant pushback against these new smaller portions. And I understand that there have been some relaxing of the significant portion control restrictions, to allow for some common sense, perhaps because of bigger football players, older kids need more nutrition, more food volume than younger. So that all sounds well and good and it plays nice in the media, but now we're talking about how much does a person really need to be fulfilled, to be strong nutritionally as well as filled in their stomach. And so now you have the push me pull you of a regulation makes certainly strong sense scientifically, but when you have a hungry kid who's complaining and a parent that sees their hungry kid complaining and maybe not doing well in school because they're now more worried about the rumbling in their tummy than they are about learning, how do you marry all this together to create not only a strong message, but something that's enforceable and embraceable?
Many moving parts, Bob. Well said. Many, many moving parts. I think basic education, and we've done this in programs like the First Lady's Let's Move program.
Okay.
There is a need to...
I've heard about that.
Yeah, and it seems to have been working pretty well. In fact, some of the stats that I looked at earlier this week may indicate that childhood obesity is finally coming under control. We're not sure about that yet, but there are always studies going on. I think you need to educate young people on the proper eating formats, understanding serving sizes, staying away from these syrups and sugars and empty calories that just cause extra weight gain.
Now you mentioned the First Lady's, what did you call it?
Let's Move.
Now is that an offshoot of and partnership with because I remember, and you have a few years on me, but when I was in school, the presidential fitness was a huge,
the patch,
with the blue seal, we would do, I could do 50 sit-ups, I
Right.
cannot do 50 sit-ups now, no jokes please, but is this an offshoot of that? Is this replace it? Whatever happened to the presidentials? Because I know fitness has always been an issue.
Yeah.
But
I don't know that, Bob. I really don't. It could be. These things tend to be evolutionary, and the White House, because it's the bully pulpit, always oftentimes will lead, a creative first family will lead in the issues that are confronting the nation. So Michelle Obama, being a wise individual, an intelligent person with children, realizes that when you have 9 or 10 million school-age kids either obese or overweight, she's got to step up to the plate and do something. And she advocated getting people, our young people, away from widescreen TVs, away from the computers, which we are just plain adapted to, maybe overly well, and getting them off couches and getting them outside to do sports, to walk, and understanding the proper techniques of eating. I had a stat in here somewhere that indicated that the average person under the age of like 18 or so watches about 8 hours of non-mobile TV or computer time a day.
Screen time.
Yeah, nicely put, screen time a day. So if you look at the time in
8
school,
hours.
8 hours a day. That's amazing. And we are somewhat of a sports-minded society, for some of us anyways.
But this affects adults also.
Huge.
For those of us who have office jobs and we're dealing with computers and off, non-direct face-to-face customer base, we're doing the same thing. We're sitting at a desk and snacking and eating and doing whatever else we do, but we're certainly not up and doing things. You talked about, you spoke of how we've come to this point. At one point we were an agrarian society. At one point we were more of a manufacturing society. At one point we were more of an active group of people, right. And that certainly has evolved to the technology, screen time, and so why not see that prevalent in the children who are then going to become the workforce of tomorrow using screens. So what a challenge.
It's a dreadful challenge. It's changing your whole attitude towards what you do. The burgeoning health club phenomenon, which we see a lot of, people working out in the morning prior to going to work or working out in the evening after getting off of work. That's a good sign, I do believe. But you're right, children emulate or copy what adults do in their whole outlook. We've got 74 million Americans, adults, age 20 and above, who are now overweight or obese.
How many?
About 74 million. It's a huge percentage in a nation of 310 million people. And it's not just here, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's a worldwide phenomenon, but of course, a lot of the agency's focus, a lot of the FDA's focus is on how to deal with it here. And we've done the things like the Spot the Block campaign. I don't know which camera I want to read this into, but the Spot the Block campaign is a real active effort to have young people, the middle school folks, look at what's on a food label, understanding how much total fat is in there, how many calories of fat in there, understanding proteins, carbohydrates, and even sodium. Sodium is a whole different show that we can do on the impact of sodium on our systems and such. But we need young people to be educated about what is in the food they eat. How many serving sizes are there? If you sit down with a box of chocolate chip cookies and there are 7 serving sizes and you eat them all, you've eaten enough for about 7 people.
But how do you teach a child this when the parents aren't reinforcing the message at home? I would think it would have to be a multi-approach. You have to really educate the parents. And of course, we, being parents, we sit behind a screen, we snack, we're not setting the best example. And I know the screen adds a few pounds, but I will admit that I'm not the most svelte of TV hosts. So,
but you're aware, and you're bringing this message to your audience, and that's the saving grace in this whole thing. I think one of the most wonderful things I've seen in 20 plus years in the American population is our understanding of problems and our willingness to confront them, really. If you look at that BMI, the body mass index, where you have the height and the weight type of thing, and excuse me, and as that continues to grow and expand, and Americans have got to deal with like $154 billion a year on obesity-related health care costs, Robert. $154 billion a year. And that's going to only go up.
That's a tremendous cost.
That's money.
Just money, never mind the health.
Yeah, that's the money that we spend on treating folks that are suffering from obesity-related health problems.
Now, there's going to be a few in the audience, and with some certain levels of validity or not validity. So, well, isn't the cure just to eat less?
Simplistically, it would help. It would surely help understanding what you're eating less of it.
But obviously, I wouldn't have had you down here.
If it was that simple.
Joe Holonitis of the Food and Drug Administration, if that was the answer.
Yeah, it's somewhat multifaceted. To have a healthy regimen, you have to understand what you eat, watch what you eat, and cut down a little bit on what you eat. But we also need to get up and be physical, get physical. It's nice it's okay to be a weekend athlete. I mean, we watch enough of it on TV, we know that. But we need to get out and we need to walk, we need to jog. We need input from our healthcare provider. And A nutritionist would be nice as well. A teacher is nice. The school systems, Bob, are trying to do a lot with this, and they're getting into the game and into the program.
Okay.
So you need to do that.
And how would the school system?
The school systems, the Spot the Block thing is major. The White House initiatives have been really, really helpful. Programs like this, I mean, this is the bread and butter of the voice of the Food and Drug Administration. I mean, if I wasn't talking to you, who would really know? A lot of people wouldn't know, honestly. It's an honor to be here.
Well, I really appreciate your taking the time to come all the way to Foxborough, because I know that you're very busy. And what we do here with this program, and the programs before, we had a great program behind the scenes with Charlie Matheson before this, and you know, there's always a need to get the message out about a variety of things, and that's why I'm very honored to have you come down here to Foxborough to share this message, and you know, a message also that goes beyond our local school system. But what can our local schools, and Spot the Block with the First Lady incorporated into it, but what is the important thing that we as parents can do to support the schools as they try to get this message and make the institutional changes to the menu?
Sure. Probably relatively simple, you know, as a parent and having school children in the system, sometimes understanding the criteria, what the priorities of education are in local public and high schools, in grade schools, and making sure that the administrators realize the need for nutrition education. Always needs to be, and pretty much it has always been there in one capacity or the next, but I can't really think or remember, Bob, when we've been so challenged as far as our diets go. You know, 20 so years ago, we mentioned this in an earlier show, when we corrected the food label and made it readable, factual, and accurate.
To show the nutritional facts.
That's correct.
And have it written in consistent language so that a typical consumer could understand this compared to this compared to this.
You do your homework. That's exactly right. And before that, the old labels back in the 80s and 70s, they were somewhat fictional. You could have done a movie from some of these. They just weren't accurate on serving sizes and things and ingredients and stuff like that. But now that's changed dramatically. So now we don't really have a reason not to understand what we're eating.
Okay.
You know, confronting this supersized mentality. You know, pushing yourself away from a table, pushing yourself away from a computer, and also realizing there's a bit of a stigma, or there used to be, with obesity. I'm not so sure that's there anymore. I'm not advocating that. I mean, some people are genetically predisposed to.
But we've also, as a society, come to accept.
We have.
And in many ways, acceptance is a good thing, but at the same time, since there is a negative impact on health, perhaps the acceptance also needs to have a realization that while it's accepted, it's not acceptable.
That's right on point. That's exactly it. It is. It exactly. When you put the.
Well, you're doing a great job educating me. So.
Well, you're helping me a lot here. I'm enjoying this. You're right. Exactly. We're an accepting society, basically. I mean, we're a conglomerate of different people, different ideas, now different shapes and different weights. But the real bottom line here is the millions of dollars spent on health care, the quality of life, Bob, of people who are morbidly obese or overweight is just not good.
Well, let's talk about that. Just touching on it briefly, we all watch, going back to screen time, but America seems to have a fascination now with reality-based television.
Right.
And on some of the cable channels, there's seems to be a plethora of reality shows on obese people and challenges, and I'm not going to name them because I want everybody just to watch Foxborough Cable Access all the time. It's where your attention should be. But if you do happen to stray from our channels and go to one of those other ones, are we glorifying it? Are we drawing attention to it? The dynamic seems to be a little weird. We all love watching a train wreck, but when something bad happens to good people, should we be watching it? Should we be giving attention? What is the answer?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I told you before we started I was going to keep chucking them out there.
I love it. It's a tough one. You're right. Some of the characters that we identify and enjoy watching on our reality TV scenarios are somewhat obese or overweight. They are. And they're colorful characters. You and I know a bunch of them, I'm sure. Are we glorifying that? I don't know. I think we're aware of it.
But you would think that we as people would see the impact. You know, look at comedian Chris Farley, who passed away.
Oh, yes.
You know, a lot of his issues were definitely caused by his size.
That's right.
But at the same time, part of his comedic genius, and the reason why we watched him, is because he was willing to put himself out there so much and do so many bad things to his body. And the funny part of it was that here's this large man doing slapstick, being funny, entertaining us. And so we as a society, or as a consumer, we watch, we pay attention to. So definitely a mixed message.
It is.
But how do you then bring that down to a child who sees this and says, wow, that guy's funny, and then tell them, but that's wrong. But he's funny, he's great, but it's wrong. How do you, it's just such a tough message.
Re-emphasize the role models who are not overweight. I mean, our athletes who have always been a mainstay of what we are, even our soldiers. I mean, you don't see many, you know, chubby people out there, you know, fighting the bad guys.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Right.
Understanding, I think, and accepting and not criticizing people who are overweight, because they have their own issues and demons to deal with. They can't be real happy, and their health could easily be jeopardized. I think you just need to be understanding, you need to be educational, you need to take it to the children. Take it, because they're the folks that are coming up. You know, and if they realize that being 45 pounds overweight at age 12, it becomes a way of life, then they're going to be 70 pounds overweight at age 25. A lot of education's involved here.
All right, so educate me. I'm a parent. I have 2 kids. Many parents out in the audience. What are the top 3 things, if you will, that we should be emphasizing, that we should take home, that when we see our kids come home from school today, we give them a hug, and we should do what?
We should make sure that proper meals are there. I mean, it's easy to, you know, go get the pizza, go get the burgers and the fries.
Everybody loves a Big Mac.
Oh, who doesn't? I mean, come on, who doesn't? I mean, that's Americana. It really is. We like history. We share a love for history, and that's part of it. You can do that. You can do it, but you got to balance these things. You got, and I'm gonna use your term screen time forever now in my career. I love it. It's great. You got to diminish the screen time.
You're welcome to it. It's
Thank
not
you.
copyright.
I appreciate that, Robert. You got to diminish screen time. You need to get them out and participate. Walks, you know, in cities like this that are user-friendly to walking around with sidewalks are a nice thing. You know, sports. We are a sports-minded society. You got to get people active. And you know, you also have to be accepting of the people that are somewhat genetically challenged and just predisposed to weight gain. And understanding the simple fact that quality of life as an adult and a child are really important. And to be hampered by, you know, 40 or 50 pounds of extra weight is going to really jeopardize your quality of life. I mean, the diabetes things that I mentioned, the bone density situations, pulmonary, coronary. These are not things that you want to go into middle age hanging over you and your family. They're just a real detriment for quality of life.
Right, right. So it sounds as though there's so many other truly medical costs that are incurred. There's an expectation now that health insurance will just pay for everything. And in Massachusetts, we have, term it what you will, but we have a global health requirement.
Yeah.
And so it seems as though, is it a true cost, or is it just a cost borne by the insurance industry?
That's sort of above my pay grade, or above my expertise. I couldn't.
But it comes down to employer also, because really it is take home. It goes in the insurance, but the insurance is paid for by someone, and that impacts take home pay.
That would.
And so people need to understand that, you know, just because it's global insurance, it's still our cost.
Yeah, we pay for it eventually.
And folks sometimes don't put that whole circle. Money comes from somewhere. It doesn't just. It's not just in the magical corporate profits that are paying for your health insurance. So with the schools passing this message along, this is the spot the block is a strong message in schools, right?
We've gotten it out there. I think it's caught on. Another one of my public affairs associates, Mary Yeva, does a lot of work, or has done a lot of work with Spot the Block, getting out there and talking to younger people. The groups that I talk to primarily are in the college area. I handle more college audiences. And I'll be honest with you, Bob, when I go out and I look at my audience and I have a list of topics that I'm going to go over, and if I see a bunch of young students that are overweight, I'm hesitant about talking about obesity. I don't want to embarrass them, because I know in that that 18 to 23 year age group, peer pressure and peer awareness is immense.
Absolutely.
And so it intimidates me a little bit to address that issue. If I look around and they're all pretty lean out there, then we'll talk obesity. And we'll warn them about their parents or their younger siblings and so forth. But education is important. It really is.
Well, I know that our local school system is, from reading meetings that the school committees had, and knowing that our local system is working to ensure that the food is nutritious, and they put some work into it, and it's been well publicized. So I think on a local level, parents should be confident that good things are happening. But on a national level, with the Food and Drug Administration and what you do, what is the next step? How do you continue to push this message?
Well, thank goodness for Michelle Obama's Let's Move program. That's still active. I think do what we're doing. Come on, cable TV operations like yours, and talk about it. Get it out. Talk about proper food awareness. Just drive the message home. We're still waiting and seeing as to how this is all going to turn out. As I think I might have mentioned earlier, there might be some studies pending on reduction in childhood obesity. That'd be really nice. I've got to do some more homework on that and take a look at maybe next shows we can touch upon it again as a little aside to see if those stats and figures are coming full swing. Just look at the studies that are out there, and just keep marching, keep getting the message out. Start with the young people. I mean, they're the most impressionable, and they definitely are the future. And keep in perspective quality of life. Just a really big thing, huge thing.
Well, you mentioned coming back, and we'd love to have you back. It's a very compelling subject, and I know that the Food and Drug Administration has so many resources. What if I'm a parent at home and I'm saying, all right, I'm going to take the bull by the horns. I'm going to take control today. I recognize that I and my family have an issue. What can I do to get more information? Where do I go?
Oh, sure. Hit our website. Our website's been redesigned, and I think you used it. It's pretty user-friendly.
It is.
www.
I found you.
You got me. I think that's a blessing. www.fda.gov//, and then do your search. Nutrition values, childhood obesity, understanding recipes, menus, and food labeling. You can do a lot of research on the website. You can contact. I do a lot of talks. I'm really big at senior centers for some reason. The 85-year-old crowd likes me. And so I do a lot of work.
Well, I can certainly understand why. You're very well spoken. You have a lot of enthusiasm.
So
great.
I get out there and I work at senior centers, and then they're really upfront. I mean, they have been around for a long time. They'll tell you what's right, what's wrong with your agency, and they'll get the message out. So you can have a public affairs person come out and talk to your group. Yeah, use our website. It's user-friendly. It covers everything. There's a consumer guide or a consumer awareness area or page on there, and you can print from it. You can call us up and get multiple copies of things. Yeah, work with the feds, work with the state, work with your, as you do here, work with your school system. Get a voice into the whole thing. It's important.
Well, powerful message. Thank you so much,
Robert.
Joe Rolanitis, for coming out here with the Food and Drug Administration, sharing the message on childhood obesity and how we as parents can maybe make a stronger effort to combat the issue. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and my guest as we learned about childhood obesity. Food and Drug Administration can be contacted at www.fda.gov. Of course, Foxborough Cable Access continues to bring this great program, Foxborough Central, and others to you. Our shows are always available to you on the web as well at www.fcatv.org. To order a burned DVD for yourself or to link to us, again, go to our website or call us at 508-543-4757. Talk to Margaret at the front desk. She'll take care of you. I'm Bob Hickey, your host. On behalf of all the volunteers at Foxborough Cable Access, Betty Travers, Beb Stores behind the cameras, Gary Nash behind the glass, Michael Weber puts us all together and makes, well, tries to make me look good, but we'll see where that goes. Anyway, stop laughing. We're good. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us. Have a great day, folks.